Susan, if Africa ever needed a wake-up call, we have received such a call in a very tragic way. Tragic in the sense that perhaps in all our lifetime, we have never seen a tragedy of this proportion. A tragedy that has seen the entire aviation industry dead, if you may allow me some extreme use of words. It has seen the tourism sector dead. And in a manner of speaking, it has exposed our underbelly as African countries. And I think throughout Africa, leaders and citizens alike are beginning to think anew. The leaders now know that there may be a crisis, the effect of which is to shut down their access to the European hospitals that they habitually attend, even when they are nothing at all. The citizens have also recognized that the taxes they pay to build hospitals and to equip them may not have been used as efficiently as they ought to have been. The African countries are also recognized that going forward, the more coordinated we are, the better. Because when you see and hear that a foundation initiated and run by one man, Jack, is distributing money to Ghana, to Kenya, to Ethiopia, to the world, it tells you that there's something wrong. It cannot be right that 1 billion plus of us do not have the ability to make money. We do not have the ability to make kits that we can use to test various ailments. We do not have the ability to supply ourselves with the very basic food. Yet, in the 1950, when the founding fathers were fighting for us to regain independence, our three identified enemies were disease, ignorance, and poverty. Yet 60 years down the line, we appear not to have gone beyond making baby steps. This has been a wake-up call. Tragic in its dimension, tragic in its enormity, a wake-up call. But the question is, will we once again be famous for never missing the opportunity to miss the opportunity? Or this time round, we will seize the opportunity. That is the question. I've never had the doubt that we have the ability to do this ourselves. We come from a tradition where those who had the opportunity to govern us during those very tragic years persuaded us through education that we are incapable of doing even the most mundane of things. But we now know better. And that is why I think that when we talk about Africa, we must talk about her with optimism as our driving force. And when one talks about Africanness, one is saying first that we recognize that there is nothing wrong with us. Number two, we recognize that we have both the natural and human resources to help us achieve what we want. Number three, that we must no longer labor under self-doubt and low self-esteem. And number four, that if we are coordinated in the things we do and stop being confined to the pigeonholes that we call countries, which were created for us by the European powers in 1884, and we coordinate our efforts, then there is no end to what we can do. And when I'm talking about Africans, I'm not only talking about those in the mother country. Many who are best men and women long migrated to Europe and America. Some of them were taken there, the ancestors were taken to the Caribbean, to the United Kingdom and Europe generally, and to the United States of America, even in Latin America. But there is a reawakening now. Wherever Africans are in the world, in the diaspora, They are beginning to say with unanimity and unquestionable clarity that we must do things that are deliberately designed to help the mother continent realize potential and be at the dinner table of human civilization without apology. And we can achieve it and we will achieve it. There are signs already. There is not doom and gloom. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And it's not light of an oncoming day. It's a new dawn. There is sometimes the tendency of thinking about the unity of Africa in a very simplistic way. I do not allow myself to be drowned in the simplicity and for to expose myself to criticism. It may be warranted if I were simplistic. It is not saying that African countries and boundaries will simply dissolve. What we are saying is that even if we retain the boundaries that are there, because we think that there will be great disruption, we will retain them merely for purposes of ensuring that governance is devolved and that there is the delivery of services. And we are beginning to move in that direction. If you look at the constitutive instruments initially of the Organization of African Unity after 2002, those of the African Union, and you look at the treaties that have come into force in Southern Africa, whether it's SADC or East African Community or whatever in West Africa or Central Africa or even the Maghreb, there is a recognition that we must move in the direction of the countries initially in the region. We must remove tariff and non-tariff barriers. And with the coming into force of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which will begin to operate in Ghana in the month of July, we are beginning to do the critical thing, putting down the foundational institutions. Allow your men and women to move freely. Ensure that we improve intra-African trade. Ensure that we have conditions that allow us to exploit and to add value to the things that we have. And many of these things are already happening. We have a single passport so that we don't have to take a visa. If you are Nigerian, you don't need a visa to Kenya and vice versa. So these things are beginning to happen. And they are beginning to happen because we have recognized that if we retain our little units, which we call countries, then we are unsusceptible to manipulation. It is not going to be easy. It is not going to be the same for the faint-hearted, because there are those who are wedded to the little things that they have, those who want to be present, to be big fish in small ponds. But those who can see beyond that will know that the strength of the United States of America, for example, the United States of America could easily be 50 countries, complete with separate presidents, complete with armies, but they chose, and it started with the 13 original states, culminating in the 50 and other territories. China could be divided into little territories. India could be divided into many countries. They are one country with a governance that is informed by the reality. That is the kind of Africa that I'm thinking about. United purpose, administration, but the exercise of power devolved effectively and creatively so that harness the resources, both human and natural.
Africa Rights with Susan West.